When referring to Meursault, the protagonist of The Stranger, Martin Cohan, an Argentinian academic, novelist, and essayist, writes, "If there could ever be something akin to a hero of indifference or indolence, a paradoxical hero of weightlessness and sleepiness, of bewilderment and nothingness, that would be, without a shadow of a doubt, Albert Camus's Meursault." When you ask somebody, who is your favorite Limbus Company sinner, you will get a variety of answers. Gregor because of his emotional vulnerability and inner turmoil, Yisang because of the sheer beauty of his struggles with depression and his willingness to fight on, Don Quixote because of her funny moments and heartbreaking Kanto, along with the sheer complexity of her situation, Heathcliff because of his growth as a character and the emotional depth of his story, and so on. But sometimes you will get another answer, one that you either fully understand or feel confused about. Meursault is my favorite sinner. But why? Why him? Why a character that's so nothing, or seemingly nothing? A character who barely speaks, who has barely any lines, who maintains a firm expression all the time. Because to people like me, those who love Meursault, it's the lack of personality, the lack of action, and the supposed lack of depth that reinforces the idea that there is much more to him that meets the eye. In a world where most of the time emotions are laid bare, where the seed of light has finally drawn the individuality out of people, how can someone like Meursault be so empty? Is he truly like this? Or has the world forced him into this state? And yet, with every action, with every piece of dialogue, with every interaction, a decision was made by Meursault. And for a moment, we can get a tiny glimpse into who he really is. Canto 10, The Gaze Bearing, is the newest upcoming chapter in the first arc of Limbus Company. And as a huge Meursault fan, I wanted to take a crack at speculating what his Kanto could be about, particularly his past, by trying to take aspects from the original book and reinterpreting them into the world of Project Moon. I won't do a full summary of absolutely every single thing that happens in the book, but rather focus on what I think is relevant. Lastly, I want to add that I've read the book in Spanish, so any quote that I show was translated directly by me. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. The book begins with the death of Meursault's mother. He mentions taking a leave of absence from work, which is allowed by his superior. This could immediately tell us that Limbus's Meursault is in a position high enough within N-Corp to be allowed a break due to the death of a family member. He travels somewhere 2 hours away from where he lives and works. This could mean he's either going to another district, maybe the French-based one that we haven't seen, or he's going directly to the backstreets of N-Corp. Already at this early point in the story, he mentions the intense heat and the sun. This is the first piece of proof of what's become very obvious to me after reading the book. Some of the events of Meursault's past take place at the same time as the Seed of Light is shining over the city. Once he arrives to the asylum where his mother was staying, the director seems to be carrying a Legion of Honor badge, which is a real thing given to French people who've given exceptional service to the nation in some form. It's a small detail, but perhaps that medal will have some significance, maybe something related to the Smoke War and who the man used to be. The man in charge of his mother's body mentions that usually in Paris, the dead are kept to be visited in their coffin for 3 to 4 days. But here, they only have a day due to the conditions. This could imply that he went to the back streets rather than another wing. As he sits to see his mother's closed coffin, eventually he asks for the lights to be turned off, because they're just too overwhelming for him. But he's told that it cannot be done. This ever-present light and heat could be symbolism for the Seed of Light. It's always present when he visits his mother, and it never goes away. When his mother's friends come by, he says that he feels like they are perhaps staring at him and judging him. This reminds me a lot of the main ego and how his room looks. Later, when they're taking his mother's coffin to a church, Meursault says, "The sky's shine was unbearable," and eventually it even causes him a headache. The first Seed of Light shines for 3 days, while Meursault's break from his job seems to last 4 days. This leads me to believe that during the events of the first Seed of Light, Meursault visits his mother's coffin and then buries her. This already sets up the effect that the light has on him: negative, overwhelming, and exhausting. As the story continues, we learn that Meursault lives in an apartment with quirky neighbors. Meursault meets and talks to a character called Raymond. This character could either be a syndicate or finger member that's somehow living in a nest, or some shitty fixer who beats women, or maybe just some other N-Corp guy who's very violent and knows other violent people. He wants to punish a woman he's been dating because he says she's been lying to him. Because Meursault is indifferent, he decides to help him by writing a letter the man wants written as part of his plan. After Meursault helps, the man treats Meursault as a partner of sorts. I doubt that they'll delve into fingers so much again, but I wouldn't be surprised if this guy is a thumb or middle member in some way. Or, again, just someone who values people who help him as equals, despite the horrible stuff he wants them to do. Meursault agrees to being partners just because the man seems to really want it, but this also pulls him closer to the beef he has with the woman's brother, an Arab. Aside from the fact that Meursault starts to get closer to Marie, a woman he likes, there's not much that happens that I can really interpret for Limbus. That is, until Raymond invites them to the beach with some friends. But before that, something else happens that I want to point out. I want to focus on what Meursault's boss tells him. He says that they're planning on opening a new office, so an expansion in Paris, and that Meursault could move to work there. He declines, which annoys his boss, but assuming he's working for N-Corp at this point, then that could mean that Nagel and Hammer wanted to expand its influence even more across other districts. After this, he meets Marie again, and although he says he doesn't love her, they end up agreeing to get married. Since, similar to Raymond, it's what she really wants, so he goes along with it. She asks him about Paris, and he says he lived there before. This would seemingly confirm that Meursault moved from one district to N-Corp with his mother. But perhaps she stayed in the back streets while he got into the nest and began working at N-Corp. Now here's where the big thing happens. Meursault and Marie go to the beach with Raymond and another couple. In there, they are attacked by the Arabs and his friends. Throughout this whole portion of the story, the overwhelming sun is mentioned again, with the heat becoming more bothersome and described in more detail as the day goes on, affecting its surroundings. Quote, "The sun broke into pieces across the sea and sand." This whole situation crescendos until the killing of the Arab man takes place. Meursault is given a gun by Raymond, and after returning him to the beach house, he goes back to walking alone because he doesn't want to further explain the situation to Marie and the rest. As he walks down the beach, more descriptions of the sun and the heat keep permeating the story. Quote, "I felt as if my forehead was getting swollen from the sun. All that heat weighed upon me and opposed itself to my advances. By now, I think we can all agree that the Seed of Light is back, likely from the ending of Ruina. And here's where it gets particularly interesting. Quote, "Every time I felt that powerful warm blow upon my face, I grit my teeth and clenched my fists within the pockets of my pants. I tensed my whole body to beat the sun and the opaque drunkenness that it soaked me with." Carmen starts talking to Meursault. He describes a need to escape from the sun, to find the shade where he can rest, but instead he comes across the Arab man again. Quote, "It was the same sun from the day when I buried my mother, and just like back then, above all, my forehead and all my joint veins hurt relentlessly." I think to me, this is another piece of proof toward this interpretation. The sun during his mother's burial was the Love Corp Seed of Light. This one is the Ruina one. The light has returned. Meursault takes a step, still trying to beat the overwhelming heat. The Arab pulls out a knife. Quote, "In that same instant, the built-up sweat on my eyebrows suddenly slid down my eyelids. My eyes were blind behind that curtain of tears and salt. I thought the sky had opened in all its extension to allow for a rain of fire." He fires the gun, and without a shadow of a doubt, this is the moment Meursault distorts. The second part of the story follows the consequences of the killing. But what I generally want to say, and what I think matters most, is that nobody understands Meursault. His personality, his behavior. And although Meursault certainly understands that the killing ruined his life, at least in some ways, even if he can't put words into his feelings. Those around him decide to put labels on who he is and what he represents, instead of taking him at face value. The multitude rejects Meursault, rejects his individuality, rejects his uniqueness. He's judged unfairly, simply because he does not respond the way he's expected to respond, and he doesn't feel the way he's expected to feel. And yet, Meursault isn't an empty void. He loves to smoke, he hates Sundays. In his own weird way, he loves Marie and enjoyed his life enough not to want to change it by moving to Paris. But the multitude judges. The multitude tightens its hold. Eventually, it reaches a point where he's taken as a menace to society, the Antichrist. And though he can't help but miss his past life, eventually he adapts. Similarly to what he says in the crossover event with Arknights when referring to the city. It would be more correct to experience more and acclimatize oneself instead of complaining. I think that it's at some point around this period, after he's been judged and he's become numb to the city, that he joins Limbus' company. And I think he will be faced with his past once we step foot back in N-Corp for the events of the Canto, returning to the one place where everyone can't stop staring at him in passing judgment. So, in conclusion, what do I think the Canto will be about? I think Meursault's Canto will be about the destruction of Meursault's individuality. I think he's a victim of Carmen and the city, of the fact he's different because a lot of the time he was perhaps indifferent. And yet, in that indifference, there were things he loved and a life he enjoyed living. His past could include a visit to the backstreets to bury his dead mother, at the same time as the seed of light from Limbus is shining in the city. He befriends a syndicate member, someone from a finger, or a messed up fixer, and this draws him into a petty rivalry. And in that visit to the beach, as the library's light shines in the sky again, he distorts, accidentally killing a man. Perhaps his judgment sends him to Limbus. Perhaps he's saved or retrieved by Faust, sent by Diaz. Either way, I think that having read the book, the potential for this Canto is enormous. And I am convinced that we'll have a very emotionally powerful story about acceptance of who you are in the midst of a world that hates you exactly because of your uniqueness. And with that, we've reached the end of the video. As always, thank you guys so much for watching and all the support. I really could not be doing this without you guys. Feel free to follow me on Twitter. I'm probably gonna start posting a bit more progress on the videos, or just retweeting Limbus art, or just stuff that I find interesting. For now, I'll see you next time. Peace.